All right, everybody, it is 7 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. While this meeting is being held in person, in consideration of ongoing COVID-19 health concerns, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to participate virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. First, please stand me and join for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audrey, please call the roll.
Davis.
Aye.
Loudon. Boltinghouse.
Here.
Inman.
Here.
Kring.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we don't have any public hearings tonight, so we would have our special presentation with Commissioner Fast, but we are going to do one of our proclamations ahead of that item. So this proclamation recognizes the Faith Always Wins Foundation that is working to make a difference against hateful acts through kindness and interfaith dialogue. This year, 7 days make a ripple, change the world will be from April 13th to April 24th. For these 2 weeks, the Faith Always Wins Foundation will offer events that promote the kindness, respect, and understanding, values that our community embraces not only during these 2 weeks, but at all times. As a 7 days supportive city, Mission will not only be promoting the metro-wide events, but will host a blood drive on April 18th at the POWELL Community Center, and will be sponsoring a citywide cleanup event, bringing together residents, HOAs, and businesses in service of the community. I am pleased to welcome Matt Rice, who is a board member of the Faith Always Wins Foundation, to accept our 7 days supportive city proclamation. Thanks to you and all the members of the foundation for the work you are doing to promote kindness. If you want to come up to the podium.
I just want to first start off and say how appreciative I am that the city of Mission is supporting us. I'm actually a Mission resident, live right down the street on Reeds in between Johnson Drive and Martway. And so it means a lot to me that my city is joining us in our efforts. For those of you who don't know 7 days, 7 days came out of an event in 2014 when 3 people from the Kansas City area were murdered at the Jewish Community Center by a white supremacist wanting to kill Jews. They were actually Christians that he killed. And so those 2 families that were devastated, instead of just folding in on their heartbreak, actually joined hands with our community and started this organization to promote kindness. And so 7 days overcomes hate by promoting kindness and understanding through education and dialogue. And we teach kindness all year, but especially during April on the anniversary of those murders. And so again, I want to thank you all for your support, but I do want to invite you all to our 2 big events on April 13th at 7:30 a.m. is our kindness kickoff breakfast at the Church of the Resurrection in Leawood. Also, April 24th will be our kindness walk at 4 p.m. at the National World War I Museum and Memorial. And of course, anybody can register for these events and find out more about our information from our website, www.give7days.org. Or you can also follow us on our social media. All of our platforms are at Give7Days. And so I would like to give you all, because I know you have one of our 7 days kindness plaques. And so because you're supporting us this year, I'd like to give you the 2022 sticker for the plaque. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for coming tonight. All right, next we will go to Commissioner Becky Fast from the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners, who will be presenting us with an update on Johnson County.
So thank you for having me this evening. I really enjoy connecting with each of my cities. The Johnson County Commission is divided into 6 districts. And as you can see, I represent the Northeast area, 11 cities. Each district is 100,000. And then there's an at-large district, which Chairman Eilert represents. So next. So Johnson County is very unique in that it has a CARS program. When I go to the Kansas Counties Association, they often say, how did you get this CARS program? How did you get this stormwater program? So we are one of the few counties in the state, or I should say in the region, that have this program. So next, and so one of the good news is that we were really worried that the funding would go down during the pandemic to our cities with our CARS program, with our SMAC program, because as you can see, a big funder of it is the gas tax, and people weren't driving as much, especially in 2020, but we have the same amount to appropriate basically as we did pre-pandemic. So Mission will be receiving the Johnson Drive project, which you have submitted, and the 175,000 is for Roland Park. So that's a joint project, and each city can have one project submitted each year as long as you meet the project plan. So next. So the Stormwater Management, I serve on this committee because it's so important to our Northeast cities. And I know you have a representative on this committee. It's called SMAC for short. I mean, Mission's impacted by Turkey Creek, Brush Creek, Rock Creek. So, I mean, all of Northeast is really impacted by severe weather events. So funding for this program is just so critical for the Northeast. So next. So as you can see, the program in 2020 changed to watershed districts. It was a city by city allocation. And I was really worried about the smaller cities in the Northeast, which if they would not receive the funding, but it's really actually benefited the Northeast because we have so many watershed districts. And as we know, water doesn't have boundaries. And so we've also began a new voluntarily home buyout program for houses in floodplains. Like Merriam has a lot of houses in a floodplain. I don't know if Mission does, but this is a new program that the county's starting rules for. We also have the rainwater program that I know you participate in. That's very popular. Next. So as you can see, those are the stormwater districts. It is a sales tax that Johnson County has, which, as I said, most counties do not have the sales tax. And next year, we'll have 19 million allocated. And Mission has put in the 174,000 that you will receive. And what's really, I find exciting is that how all the cities work together in both these programs. Overland Park could receive our entire CARS allocation, but they really work that the smaller cities receive their allocations every year. Next. So next. So wastewater is a huge issue for Councilor Thomas and I. We live right next to the Nelson plant, and certain days when our windows are open, we can smell it. And I know you've been impacted a lot in the last year. So I am really excited, and I know many of your residents are really excited about the upgrades. It is the oldest wastewater plant in the county. That's when the Northeast was developed. When wastewater is developed, you see this in our rural areas, then housing developments come up. And so when Nelson was developed, Northeast just developed so rapidly. And so we had the open house last year. Many of you were there. I know Mayor Flora was there. Your staff was there. And there'll be ongoing public engagement, open houses for your concerns, input. And this will be quite the ordeal, probably our most expensive project in Johnson County history, because we have to move the waste from one end end of the wastewater plant to the other end. And so very costly, and it's paid through ratepayers in our county. One of the things that I am sad about is that the hazardous waste facility, which is so close to all of us, is going to be moved to Overland Park because there will no longer be space for that. But I think that will have more easy access for residents. And we just bought the land to develop this. I've been pushing hard on the commission that it'll be a one-stop center that you can drop off not only your hazardous waste, but your glass. I would love to see composting. So please speak up for that. That would be really an easy accessible that we can all drop off different items. So next. So sustainability, I want to thank Councilor Kring, who's served on our Solid Waste Management Committee for years. Our Solid Waste Management Committee is made up of representatives from different cities to have strong input from across the county. And this talks about the hazardous waste moving from Nelson. We're also conducting our first greenhouse gas inventory, which is exciting. And we haven't had one since 2013. That is due to many of you and your leadership with the KC Climate Action Plan. And so that will give you, if you do one as a city, it will give you a comparison baseline. I know City of Prairie Village has already done one, and we're using the same company that the City of Prairie Village is using. And so you have participating City of Mission in the Recycle Right campaign. It was very popular in Westwood, and they saw a lot of success in recycling right. And so thank you to your staff and our county staff and going door to door. Prairie Village is now looking at it. So we're still in the implementation pilot phase. I would love to see it implemented countywide. Next. So one of the hot big issues for the Johnson County Commission coming up on April 4th is to allow large scale or solar in our unincorporated area. We have industrial solar companies and landowners who've also come forth that want to install solar panels. So the Planning Commission has brought forth their recommendations. We're thinking it could be an all day. Well, start at 2, could be all afternoon, all evening. It will be in person. You can Zoom in or come in to give your comments on allowing solar in our unincorporated areas.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
fine.
fine.
If we need to, register for public comments, or if it's, what we need to do to.
Yeah, and that will be, the county will be announcing that soon. I would, yes, definitely encourage. So, I mean, because there could be, we're thinking maybe 100 people will be speaking. And so, yeah, if you want to do it from home, then you can clean your house. Oop, I'm up. So it'll be either, yes, definitely, please register. Next. So thank you to City of Mission about being a part of our co-responder program. That has just been very successful. And I don't know if you approved a second one or you're looking at approving. So it says 18, but with City of Mission, and will be up to 19 and possibly 20. One of the things that Johnson County has started is being a part of the 988. This Kansas has to approve the funding yet, which would be like a 20 cents tax on your telephone. This is going to be a national hotline, just like 911. And it would be, I hope that doesn't happen, but if Kansas is not a part of it, we could be one of the only states. Or if Kansas doesn't fund it, that means you have someone who answers a hotline, but you don't have someone who really works with a mobile crisis in terms of doing further outreach. One of the issues that I've been working on, I serve as a mental health liaison, is to have more incorporation with our 911 and our mental health staff. We're working on moving mental health staff to our 911. So if someone, we have like 20 to 30% of people who call our 911 and are mental health related. So what happens, we send out a fire truck, we send out an ambulance, you send out your police, and it's a mental health call. How can we route from 911 right away to mental health person. So we don't have to roll out that fire engine, roll out that ambulance. And so that is, I'm hoping that we can move, start, and with that 988 funding, that will really help to integrate our first responders. Next. So on alternatives to incarceration, I think a lot of cities, I didn't know that our city pays, part of the jail fee. When you have a municipal level crime, the city of Mission will pay $75. Last year, the county started, so for municipal level crimes, that they could go to the adult residential center, which is only $35. But it's not only about money. I mean, most importantly, it's giving people the services to help. Our adult residential services provides counseling, job skills. If they don't have housing supports, so they don't languish in jail because they don't have housing or support to transition for community reentry. So this is a brand new program, and I think this is a really good partnership that we're working on to have with the cities. Next. So affordable housing, the city of Mission really led the way. I remember when you were at the first tier suburbs, you were one of the first cities really talking about what we need to do about affordable housing. Last year, we released our housing study, and I know you've had presentations on the housing toolkit. On the board, we formed a subcommittee, Commissioner Hanslick, Commissioner Allebrand, and I, and we've been each month working on how could we at the county do a housing trust fund. Douglas County has one. Kansas City, Missouri has one. How could we expand the county's support for exterior housing grant program? We only have like $500,000 that we, through home funds, that we provide cities, very little when you look at a full county. And weatherization, energy efficiency funds. So we are receiving these ARPA funds, and we'll be making decisions. We don't have a year-round homeless shelter for adults in Johnson County. That is a real need that is not being met. And so we will, our deputy county manager will be working with your city manager as we talk about housing and the ARPA funds and how do we implement these strategies with the cities. Next. So you can see our ARPA funds, how much the county receives. We have determined 3 priorities: childcare, housing, and workforce. As we know, there's a real childcare crisis right now, and to help those small businesses and to support them with this ARPA fund. Also, we have a real workforce crisis in many of our care areas: mental health, nursing, medical. And so how do we support in that area too, in sort of development? And then the housing, which I just talked about, what housing strategies can we implement that we have these funds to be innovative? Next. So often in the Northeast, I know for myself, I go to Antioch Park, I go to Meadowbrook in terms of the county parks, but I rarely get out to Lake Lenexa, Cedar Niles. And during the pandemic, I went and walked every county park, and we have some incredible county parks. And it feels like a long ways for those of us who live in the Northeast, but it's really worth it. Cedar Niles just opened, and the Kill Creek Park Observation Tower opened. You can walk all around Lake Lenexa, incredible bike trails. So I just want to highlight, explore some of our county parks out in the county. Next. And so the Johnson County new Antioch branch library, groundbreaking is probably the end of this year. They hope to start building it next year. So that's really exciting for us. Corinth is probably slated later on for some major renovations. So that will have a huge impact on library patrons and those of us who a lot of us have gone digital, but a lot of people really enjoy picking up their book or meeting in the library, working in the library. So we're really lucky to have these neighborhood-based libraries in the Northeast. And also we have Cedar Row too in Roland Park. So those are kind of the basic highlights of things we've been working on. I just want to hear from you, your priorities, interests, or questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Vass, I had one question since you brought up housing. I don't know how much you've dove into the assessments yet, the tax assessments this year, but in the top 4 biggest percentage increases on residential, both Roland Park and Mission were in the top 4. And I was wondering, as part of that housing task force, if you're looking at any potential tax abatements or programs for fixed income seniors or other things like that. So obviously the city can explore that too, but the county's mills are a lot bigger portion of everyone's tax bills. So I was curious if you've considered that option.
Yes, I mean, our houses here are just selling, as we all know, that it's that skyrocketing appraisals. I mean, I think the focus will be on to support seniors in place with accessibility grants and housing, rehab. I mean, that will be more the focus. Also, part of this is what incentives can we give developers to develop affordable housing, but we haven't gone there right now. I think it would be more rehab funds, which would really, I mean, they're assessing where the older housing is that really, and unsafe housing, they're really mapping it across the county. So yeah, I don't know in terms of tax. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've reduced our mill levy. I bet we will reduce it again. It's always hard because they say if interest rates go up, that the housing market will go down. So yeah, we don't, the legislature has a number of bills that your appraisal would stop at 65. And so they're looking at increasing the Homestead Act and the Safe Seniors Program. So there's some state initiatives too.
Thanks so much for being here.
Yes.
I have a question in that you guys are probably coming up on your budget process. And I'm just wondering if you have any personal goals or priorities that you're going to be pushing for in that process.
Yes, I mean, one of the things is our mental health building was the old county nursing home. You go in there and there'll be buckets everywhere with water coming down, it smells. And we need a brand new mental health building. So that will be, one priority in the funding. Also to continue to increase and expand our crisis mental health. I mean, 22 responders. We need more funds for our crisis intervention training, which I think I heard from the mayor, like 80 or 90% of your mission police, but we're only able to offer that training now like every other year. And so that we need to have more training options and more training personnel is really, and for me, my big priority is to get the housing priorities funded through the ARPA funds and our budget.
Becky, at one point you had a phenomenal program. Several of us were in it, called the Johnson County Citizens Academy. Do you foresee them implementing or re-implementing that program? It was amazing. If anybody hadn't gone, it took into account every historical aspect of Johnson County, how it started, how it grew. It had an emphasis on the parks and on the museum and a whole array of things. It was so good and so well done. Do you think you'll see that again?
Yes, I really do. And as long as our pandemic doesn't come back, that was, as you said, I went through it, you went through it. I think I've encouraged everyone. It really is an important program, and I'm really hopeful. I think another priority is I'd like to see some funding with composting, as Debbie knows. Our contractors with our CARS program, I had them check in, and most of the contractors now are recycling that asphalt. And so that is a real big change too in the county. It used to be all in the landfill. Our landfill has 22 years left. And if we want to see high prices for trash, wow, I mean, once that landfill fills up. So thank you for doing the Recycling Right program. Mission, we all talk about it around the county, that Mission has such a strong sustainability, committee and the council's strong goals on sustainability. But that's, we do not want that landfill to fill up in 20 years.
Any other questions for Commissioner Fast? All right, thank you so much for the
Yep,
update.
thank
It was
you.
great.
Yep.
All right, we'll jump back to our proclamations. We do have a second proclamation that recognizes Fair Housing Month in Mission. This April marks 55 years since the signing of the Federal Fair Housing Act. It is important that we recognize and raise awareness of each individual's rights under fair housing. We are committed to equal housing opportunities in our community, and I am honored to proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in the city of Mission. Next on our agenda is the issuance of notes and bonds. We do not have any items related to the issuance of notes and bonds this evening, so we will move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda has 9 items tonight. Our council committees met on March 2nd and fully discussed each of these items. The committees agreed that the items listed on our consent agenda are routine enough to be considered under a single motion. If a council member or member of the public would like an item removed from the consent agenda, they may request that at this time. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4I.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Audrey, please call the roll.
Loudon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Boltinghouse,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
and Crane.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next up is public comment. If any members of the public would like to make a comment on items not included on our agenda tonight, now would be the time. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember that your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are a part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Emily, do we have any online comments? No? And seeing no hands in the audience, we'll move on to our next item. This is action items for our planning commission. We do have one item brought forward from the planning commission, which is the consideration of a preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for the Mission Preserve. Mr. Scott, will you please provide your report?
Can you pull up the packet with the site plan in it? Okay, the planning commission met last Monday, February 28th. And there were 2 items pertaining to this particular application. One was a public hearing for consideration of a preliminary development plan. And then the other was consideration of a preliminary plat. And both of those are associated with a parcel of property that's approximately 9.6 acres located on West 51st Street between Fox Ridge and Riggs. This parcel of property is currently undeveloped. The property is zoned RP5 Planned Senior Adult Residential District. The zoning designation is intended to provide housing opportunities for independent seniors aged 55 years and older, or assisted living and skilled nursing facilities. The application before us tonight is from Stride Development, and they're proposing to build a 132-unit multifamily housing development for residents that are 55 years of age or older that are seeking an independent lifestyle. So there is no nursing care facility associated with this application. Kind of zoning the surrounding areas. To the north is R6 high-rise apartment district. To the east is R1 single-family residential district. Those are mostly single-family homes along Roig Street that were built between 1920 and 1980. To the south is R4 garden apartment districts. And that's Bridges at Fox Ridge apartment complex built in 1970. And then to the west is R4 Garden Apartment District. And that's also Bridges at Fox Ridge apartment complex. And that building was built in 1973. The comprehensive plan identifies this particular parcel as well as the surrounding parcels to the north and to the west as being high density residential. That's both in the draft plan Tomorrow Together, which we've been working on for the past couple of years, as well as the current plan that was adopted in 2007, which is essentially in effect right now. And that designation goes back in previous comprehensive land use plans to 1968. So it's been designated that way for a long time. A little bit more about the specific project itself. The proposed development consists of 2 residential structures. I'll identify them as east and west, connected by a structure serving as a clubhouse with entryway and lobby, leasing offices, shared workspace offices for residents, and a general seating and lounge area with a chef's kitchen. The clubhouse is a 1-story building, while the 2 residential buildings are 4 stories each. The total square footage for the development is 186,140 square feet with a footprint of 57,490 square feet. There are 21 bedroom apartments and 112 2-bedroom apartments for a total of 132 units, or 244 bedrooms. The exterior building materials include a 10-foot high stone veneer base around each of the 2 residential buildings with lap siding above. Each building has 2 sections that project slightly from the facade, creating kind of alternating wall planes that break up the facade to create more of a human scale and provide some visual interest. The projections are surfaced in cement fiberboard with trim to cover the seam, creating a board and batten look. The roofs will have a 12-4 pitch covering composition shingles. The 1-story clubhouse is a similar design, exterior elements. There's a portico at the front of the building over the driveway and a cupola on the roof with windows providing natural light into the lobby area. Landscaping. The applicant is attempting to preserve many of the existing trees on site around the building footprint. The largest area of preserved trees and vegetation will be in the northeast corner of the site. The trees around the entire perimeter of the site, especially in the south side, will be maintained and preserved as much as possible. Within the site, there will be a variety of ornamental trees, interior shade trees, evergreens, and shrubs. Stride proposes 2 small ponds on the property, one on the north side of the entrance and one on the south side of the property. These will also serve as not only landscape elements, but water detention basins for stormwater. For site access and parking, primary access to the development is a single point entrance at 51st Street. There'll be a secondary western access that aligns with a dedicated easement that runs through the apartment complex west of Fox Ridge. So Bridges at Fox Ridge is kind of between the property and Fox Ridge Drive. And there's actually a dedicated easement that runs through that property that provides that access point from the development project to Fox Ridge. So it obviously meets the intended code, is a permitted use. Height and area regulations within the zoning code. There are no height restrictions. As I stated earlier, the buildings will be four stories tall. The lot areas are a little bit confusing, kind of written up in the staff report. But in a nutshell, the zoning code requires a lot area for one bedroom to be 1,100 square feet and two bedroom units to be 1,400 square feet. So we kind of go through and we do all the calculations. The total area required for the number and type of units in the west building is 107,200 square feet, or 4,400 square feet greater than the actual building size of 102,800 square feet. And the total lot area required for the number and type of units in the east building is 71,600 or 1,100 square feet greater than the building size. Now that's just the actual apartment buildings themselves, the east and the west building. So we have to include the clubhouse in that calculation as well, which helps to bring down that number. When calculating the lot area per 1 and 2 bedroom units, common areas of the building are included in the calculation. So it's not just the actual unit itself, but it's hallways, stairwells, and all of that. So the zoning stipulation of 1,100 square feet of lot area does not mean necessarily, like I said, that the unit itself must be 1,100 square feet, but rather a portion of the common area of the building is included in that requirement of 1,100 square feet. And furthermore, the total square footage of the project, all three buildings, is equal to approximately 186,140 square feet, as I just stated. While the entire lot size is 434,598 square feet, or a ratio of building to land of 43%. Stated earlier is a desire of the applicant that the city to preserve open space on the property. Therefore, a slightly lesser lot area per unit is acceptable to provide more open space on the property. Yard requirements, there is a 25-foot setback from the property line, and all three buildings well exceed that. I think probably the closest to the property line is 100 feet. It's the east building. Section 515.360 of the Mission Municipal Code stipulates that sidewalks shall be installed by the subdivider developer on both sides of all primary and secondary thoroughfares and collector streets, and on one side of all local residential streets. Stride Development is proposing to build a 5-foot wide sidewalk from the entrance point on 51st Street going west to Fox Ridge. They'll provide a connection point for the residents to Streamway Park. There is no sidewalk going east, and two reasons. One is there's a retaining wall that's awfully close to the street, so there's just not really enough space for a sidewalk in that retaining wall. And then the further east you go, that land really slopes off from the street, so there's just not really a lot of space for a sidewalk. Traffic. Stride submitted a traffic impact study to document traffic and trip generation for the proposed development. The proposed trip generation for multifamily housing mid-rise estimates a total of 583 vehicles per day. And that seems like a big number, but when you break it down, it's not as big. There are 46 AM peak hour trips and 52 PM peak hour trips. This is based on the proposed trip generation that's provided by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. It is anticipated from the study there will be minimal impact to existing traffic on surrounding arterials, including 51st Street and Fox Ridge. I will stop here and say that at the public hearing in front of the Planning Commission, we had about 12 residents that appeared at that meeting. 3 to 4 actually spoke. And that was probably the biggest concern. Most of the residents that spoke live in Apollo Gardens. And so they're accessing 51st Street from Riggs going southbound. And their concern was that sometimes there's a delay of making that turn either west or east on southbound Riggs onto 51st Street. So they were concerned about the additional traffic. The Planning Commission, with that thought in mind, did create an extra stipulation that the traffic study be revisited and that the scope of work be expanded to look at the impact of both Fox Ridge and Lamar with traffic counts as well as the intersection of Riggs and 51st Street. So that will be a part of the final development plan that's submitted back to the Planning Commission. And that comes back later this summer. So with that said, section 440-160 of the Mission Municipal Code provides standards and criteria for consideration of site plans. One, the site is capable of accommodating buildings, parking area, drives, and appropriate open space. Staff believes that the subject property is capable of accommodating the buildings, parking areas, and drives as proposed. Two, the plan provides for safe and easy ingress and egress and internal traffic circulation. The proposed site plan provides for safe and easy ingress and egress to the development from 51st Street, as well as Fox Ridge Drive through the bridges of Fox Ridge Apartment Complex. The plan is consistent with good land planning and site engineering design principles. The proposed site plan is consistent with good land planning and site engineering. Four, the appropriate degree of harmony will prevail between the architectural quality of the proposed buildings and the surrounding neighborhoods. Staff believes the architectural quality of the proposed development is in keeping with other development projects that surround the site. Proposed materials are consistent with the city's design guidelines. Item 5, the plan represents an overall development pattern that's consistent with the comprehensive plan and other adopted planning policies. And staff believes that the proposed development does in fact is consistent with the type of development that has been identified in the city's comprehensive land use plan dating back to 1968, as well as the proposed update comprehensive land use plan, and is also consistent with the zoning category that was established for this property in 1987. Finally, right-of-way for any abutting thoroughfare has been dedicated pursuant to the provisions of this chapter 455. Right-of-way has been identified in the site plan and a sidewalk is proposed. So staff recommended to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission voted 7-1 to recommend to the City Council a case number 2201, consideration of a preliminary development plan for a multifamily residential complex for adults age 55 and older be approved with the following conditions. 1, a final development plan will be submitted to the city and approved by the Planning Commission prior to the issuance of any building permits. 2, a final stormwater management report will be required with the final development plan submittal. The stormwater report will document stormwater infrastructure and detention basin design details, subject to review and approval by public works staff. 3, an application for a land use disturbance permit shall be submitted to and issued by the city before any clearing, grading, digging, or blasting occurs on the site. I will stop there and stipulate too that that was one of the concerns that was brought up at the Planning Commission by one of the residents. The city has a pretty extensive set of policies regarding blasting that the applicant would be required to follow. I think those were included in your packet. Item 4, the applicant shall submit a final site plan and construction documents to the city for review and approval prior to building permit issuance. 5, a final plat shall be approved by the Planning Commission before building permit issuance. 6, the applicant shall obtain all approvals from the Consolidated Fire District Number 2 prior to building permit issuance. 7, the applicant shall obtain all approvals from Johnson County Wastewater and Johnson County Water District Number 1 prior to the building permit issuance. 8, the applicant shall be responsible for all damage to existing infrastructure, including roads, curbs, and sidewalks. Repairs shall be of quality like or better than existing conditions before final certificate of occupancy is issued. Item 9, the applicant shall provide a 2-year warranty bond on all public infrastructure installed as part of this preliminary development plan. Bonds will be placed on file with the City of Mission Community Development Department. And then item 10, this preliminary plan approval shall lapse in 5 years from its effective date if construction of the project has not begun or if construction is not being diligently pursued, provided, however, the applicant may request a hearing before the City Council to request an extension of this time period. The city council may grant an extension for a maximum of 12 months in good cause. Then there's the final item 11. The traffic study shall be updated to evaluate impact of the development on the West 51st corridor from Lamar to Fox Ridge with counts at each intersection and at Rigg Street and West 51st. Revised traffic study will be presented to the Planning Commission with the final development plan. And that was added by the Planning Commission. So that's the preliminary development plan. I will quickly go through the plat, and then Mr. Ferdig from Stride Development is here tonight. He can add anything else to my comments, then we can answer any questions that you all may have.
Brian,
Yes.
number 11 was not included in our packet. I don't know if that was something that was added later.
It should be on your ordinance that's in your packet.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you look at the ordinance, that should be there. We didn't add it to the packet because that was the staff report that was presented to the Planning Commission.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So again, same property, different verse. I won't go through all of the zoning and everything. Can you bring that up? So according to the requirements of section 440-220 of the Michigan Municipal Code, staff has determined the following: the proposed preliminary plat conforms to the requirements of this title, the applicable zoning district regulations, and any other applicable revisions of this code, subject to only to acceptable rule exceptions. Item number 2, the subdivision or platting represents an overall development pattern that is consistent with the master plan and official street map. The property is of unusual shape with a northwest property line forming a 90-degree angle at the northwest corner, and the east property line forming a 45-degree angle at the northeast corner. The northeast corner of the property line returns in a southwesterly direction. The northeast corner of the property crosses the north end of Rigg Street and cuts into a portion of the front yard of the property of 5101 Rigg Street. City staff has requested a dedication of right-of-way to the city for the northern terminus of Rigg Street and to provide the remaining portion of fee simple to the owner of 5101 Riggs. So if you go down a little bit further, probably a couple more slides, or might be like a site plan or a plat map. Yep, that's good. If you could slide it over a little bit. All right. So if you look at the screen in the upper right-hand corner, there's that funny shape with the property, yep, right where the arrow is at. Riggs actually dead ends in that area. There's a kind of a half cul-de-sac or turnaround area. And then the property that's owned by the developer actually slices a little bit into the front yard of the property owner, 5101 Riggs. So we're asking that in the final plat, when that's submitted to the city planning commission for consideration, that corner that's in the property at 5101 Riggs be dedicated to that property owner. And then that the cul-de-sac be dedicated to the city. And we're actually drafting the legal descriptions to describe those two parcels. And that's part of the final plat. So, you seem confused.
No, does the legal description for 5101 Riggs include that as part of their property?
That's a
or-
good question. I do not know. Yeah. Yeah. We may have to redraft that legal description as well. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, just looking in the ordinance, I don't see number 11 regarding the traffic either. Just wanted to know if we needed to make an amendment or something before voting on that tonight.
Under section 2
Yeah,
of the ordinance.
PDF page
Correct. It's not,
Yeah, it's not there.
You'll have to amend, when you make a motion to approve, your motion will have to reflect item 11 for the traffic study. So that apparently, I updated it, but apparently didn't make it into the packet, so. Yes,
I just had a question. Is 5 years a typical timeline for a preliminary plan?
generally, yeah. But
It
2 to
seems kinda
5 years,
long.
yeah.
But that's normal?
Mhm. Let's see, we talked about that. Item 3, the plat contains, well conceived, yes, the plat contains, plat is 1 lot with 2 tracks according to the applicant. This is how the property was surveyed and platted at the time of purchase. The smaller track, track 2 on the north side is really just allotted for utility dedication, so that's why that's outlined that way, and city staff has no issue with that. And then 4, the spacing and design of proposed curb cuts, intersection locations is consistent with good traffic engineering, design principles and public safety considerations. Utility easements on the plat are consistent with good engineering practices, are acceptable to the city. And finally, all submission requirements have been satisfied and identified requirements for submission of a final plat. So staff recommended to the city planning commission, the planning commission recommended approval to the city council of case number 2202, consideration of a preliminary plat known as Mission Preserve with conditions as outlined in item 5 above. And that was approved 7-1 as well by the planning commission. That concludes my report. As I said, Mr. Furtick is here to answer any questions, or would you like to add anything, Jason? Okay, why don't you come on up? This will be your time to speak.
We have, Brian, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Do we know the last 2 developments that were approved? Do we
Yes.
know if it had anything to do whatsoever with any stormwater problems, any land gradient problems, or anything like that as to why they were not developed?
nothing to do with the stormwater or anything like that. I don't really know. So there were 2 projects that I was able to find information on that have been
Right.
proposed for this site before. And just so I can kind of read that into the public record. The first was the Gables emission,
Mhm.
which was a 132 unit multifamily development for those that are 55 and older. And that was approved in 1987. Why that never came to be, I don't know. And then the second one was Mission Falls. That was a 203 unit multifamily development that was approved in 2007. I know that they proposed, obviously it's a much bigger project, so the buildings were much bigger. And they had proposed underground parking, which was a challenge given the rocky conditions of that site. That would have required a lot of blasting and digging and jackhammering, and that gets very expensive very quickly.
Okay.
So I think just the cost of building that in combination with the fact it was right on the edge of recession, just didn't probably make it financially feasible for them.
Okay, thanks.
Hillary, go ahead.
Thank you. Brian, I had 2 questions. First one is the final development plan. If tonight moves forward after this, the final site plan will just go to the planning commission. We won't see this again, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Second question is, or second comment and then question, thank you for the sending over the market study. That was interesting. Say in 5 years, okay, let's say in 10 years, because we've got 5 years to build it, right? Let's say that this is built and, you know, the market didn't shape up quite the way they planned, but it's still zoned for 55 and up. What would be the I know this is very hypothetical, but what would be the circumstances for them wanting to then consider leasing those apartments to folks under 55 years if they cannot fill it?
Yeah, so if the market conditions change and they want to make it more of just a general market rate apartment complex for any age, I think the first thing they would have to do is request a zoning change. So that would be public hearing before the planning commission, presentation, consideration by the city council. So.
All right, do we have any other questions for Brian? And then we'll hear from the developer. Yeah, Trent?
Yeah, Brian, you mentioned we have some safeguards related to blasting. Could you speak more to what kinds of protections are there and any potential concerns you see from your end on that?
I don't have that section of the code in front of me, but it's
Jason's got it.
all right. He is the man. Okay, so chapter 505, building construction regulations, and this is in the Mission Municipal Code. Section 505.0. It goes, answers several sections. There's a pre-blasting survey that's done. So at least 10 days before any blasting, the surveyor shall notify in writing all residents or owners of dwellings and other structures located within 600 feet of a blasting area of the intent to conduct a pre-blasting survey. The surveyor shall conduct a pre-blasting survey of dwellings and structures, prepare a written report of the survey. The surveyor requested by the building official shall perform an update survey of any additions, modifications, or renovations to dwelling structures. The surveyor shall determine the condition of the dwelling or structure and shall document any existing damage or other physical factors that could be affected by the blasting. The person who conducted the survey shall sign the written report of the survey. Copies of the report shall be promptly provided to the building official. There's provision here for public notification before blasting started. The blaster shall inform all residents within a radius of 1,500 feet of the blasting location by means of printed information sheets. The notification shall be delivered by registered mail with a copy by regular mail or by hand delivery, the signature from the owner or occupant to evidence receipt. Warning system, the blaster shall provide suitable warning by sirens or whistles prior to all blasting. Over blasting, the requirements presented herein shall not relieve blaster from responsibility to avoid disturbing earth or rock beyond indicated and specified lines and levels. Blasting schedule. Blaster shall conduct blasting operations between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Blasting signs, warnings, and access control of adverse effects. It goes on and on and on. It gets very technical and wonky. So.
All right, do we have any other questions of council for Brian? If not, we'll hear from the developer and then we'll see if there's any questions of council for him. And then if we have any public questions or
Councilman
comments.
Green have a
I
question?
just want to make sure we get that legal description for that residence
Yeah.
before we move
Yeah,
forward, if
we'll-
that's possible.
yeah.
Thank you.
We'll make that part of the final plat that's submitted, make sure it's all right.
All right, you want to come on up?
Hi there. I'm gonna pick this up. I've found over the last 3 meetings that I don't speak very loudly, so I apologize. I thought I'd go ahead and just talk about, there were a handful of items that came up through the initial meeting as well as the neighborhood meeting, and then of course in planning as well. So thought I'd touch on all those topics, and then we can kind of open up to questions beyond that. The goal of developing Mission Preserve from the beginning, it's been to provide our residents with all the amenities and luxury features of a newly developed community while maintaining the look and feel of a mature neighborhood. The way we intend to accomplish that is by preserving more than 2.5 acres of land surrounding the building in its natural state, which currently is trees, shrubs, rock outcroppings, hence the name Mission Preserve. That's the idea. We realize obviously that across the site, there's going to be different types and densities of vegetation across the site. And because of that variance, we also anticipate that we're going to need to supplement some of the existing landscaping as we go through. Brian mentioned as well, because of that, we're looking at planting an additional 74 trees, 335 shrubs, and a little over 2 acres of native seed grass as well. So that's in addition to the 2.5 acres of trees that we're leaving as is. One of the comments that came up quite frequently, of course, is the wildlife that's seen in the area. We recognize absolutely that the frequency of wildlife sightings is likely going to go down during construction. However, we're confident that the existing urban wildlife that does use this area, frequently comes through this area, will return and adapt. That's kind of the nature of urban wildlife. In fact, we feel that the areas that we've chosen to preserve and the wildlife that will be coming through there are actually two of our greatest amenities to the project. Sustainability. This is a very complex topic. Complex in that it changes from region to region, even from one energy supplier to another. When we look at the project, in addition to preserving as much of the vegetation as we can, I think the most meaningful commitment we can make is to go all electric on the project. What that does, and it's hard to explain, but the trickle down effect of going electric is going to require energy modeling, interior and exterior LED, Energy Star rated appliances, fixtures, sub-metering, dimmers, timers, motion sensors, pre-wire and conduit for EV charging stations, and potentially solar down the road. So, and on and on and on. So we think that's a big commitment, considering natural gas is actually a much cheaper alternative for heating. During the FDP process, we'll also provide a photometric study, which will include all the exterior lighting types, locations, which will also kind of tell you where they're at, how they're directed, and how they will limit light pollution, whether it be it through our neighbor and or night skies. That's the dark sky limits there, and still provide obviously a safe environment for our tenants. Blasting. I'll touch on this again. Brian kind of read some of my stuff there. As most people obviously know around this area, kind of Johnson County in general, there's a very shallow bedrock that runs through a lot of this area. In fact, before we even started working on the initial draft, we pulled down all of the soils reports and the topography and really started to study. And a lot of this kind of falls, if you look back at the Mission Falls plan, we use that as our base. So if you look at the plan that was approved prior, we use that as a base, and we studied that plan and tried to figure out, okay, how is this bedrock going to affect us? So, which is why we lopped off 2 big wings of the building. We got rid of all the underground parking, and we slid the building a little further up into the center, so further away from all the different property lines. And the reason for that is, again, is to kind of move it out and away from these rock beds that we ran into. And based on that, on the geological reports, as well as we've got excavation modeling where we figure out what our input, our infill or our import, export, all that. We've gotten it to right now where we're not anticipating blasting. We've moved everything up, moved everything out, moved everything away. Now we all know, again, I can drill a hole here and it says 6 feet, here it says 8 feet, here it says 10, and then all of a sudden in the middle, there's one that's a foot tall. And so it's not to say that it couldn't happen. And in the event that we do have to blast, obviously we'll follow all of Mission's protocols. And it is 6 pages deep of very, very technical data. So, and I think the last one I've got here, is traffic. And I'll touch base on that again. Brian did a good job explaining it. As we went through, because our project generates less than 100 trips at peak hour, that's kind of the cutoff for where Mission's not different. Most municipalities look at the same thing. Anything under 100 typically doesn't require additional study. Ours being 46 and 52, it typically wouldn't. However, again, we did have several people that were concerned about the existing conditions. And obviously, if the existing conditions are a problem, what does it look like when you add more cars? So we've put together, and Celia is working with my traffic engineer, and they've got the places. So I think we're studying Fox Ridge and 51st, Riggs specifically in 51st, all the way down to Lamar and 51st to kind of get a true pattern through that area. And then we're very confident that when we show our traffic on top of that, it'll be a fractional piece. So that's all I have. That was kind of my touch base on most of the comments that have come through over the last 3 meetings. But open it up. Feel free to ask anything you have.
All right, first, any questions from council? Yes, Hillary?
Hi.
Hey,
I'm wondering, I'm really concerned about the condition of the street on 51st, which isn't your responsibility, I understand.
Yep.
But I'm wondering, that entrance that you have there on 51st, I mean, it might sound really silly, but how far out are you gonna be, putting that new asphalt in? Will it, because it's just going to be such a dramatic change because 51st is in such bad shape. And that's more of also a comment to staff, just if we have any timeline on when we're going to hear about cars in relation to 51st as well.
yeah, I can tell you what I typically do. So again, typically when we do a new entrance or cut into a road, we're going to have a concrete apron, which is both curb, gutter, drive and stuff. So our concrete apron and we'll match up with the existing curb and gutter, which usually means on an older asphalt road that's been beat up and it's got some rain, then we end up, patching in. It's in pretty, like you said, it's in rough shape. I'm not sure, how the patching will go if it means we have to cut a few feet into it in order to taper in. Because again, if nothing else, we want to protect our apron too, because if there's any differential, it'll start tearing into our concrete apron as well.
Well, as far as you want to go, just let it,
I
let it
appreciate that.
stretch. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? All right, Emily, do we have any online comments or questions on this item? And do we have anyone in the audience tonight who is wanting to ask anything on this? Seeing none. Any further council discussion? Do we need an amended motion
So
on this, Laura?
we have added, so Emily has pulled up on the screen, we've amended the ordinance to add the condition 11, which was a stipulation. So it, Emily, can you read that? I can't read it from here. Sorry. Hang on, it says,
We're just waiting on a microphone for Emily, I think.
traffic study to be updated to evaluate the impact of the development on the West 51st Street corridor from Lamar to Fox Ridge with counts at each intersection and at Riggs Street and West 51st. Updated traffic report will be presented at the time the final development plan is considered by the Planning Commission. So that's what condition 11 now says in the ordinance. So as you make the motion, we'll make sure that gets updated in the packet, but this is now the ordinance. I think you could just make the motion to include all 11, and I would specifically state 11 stipulations so that we make sure we capture the intent of that.
Mayor,
Yep, Ken?
do you want me to go ahead and make the motion?
Yeah, I would entertain a motion.
Yes. So Mayor, I move that the city council approve the preliminary development plan and preliminary plat with stipulations for construction of a multi-family housing development to be known as Mission Preserve, located at approximately West 51st Street and Riggs Street in the city of Mission. And that we also will add an 11th stipulation under section 2, conditions and stipulations, which has been updated in our packet.
We have a motion and a second that is with the 11 stipulations. Any further council discussion? Audrey, please call roll.
Boltinghouse,
Aye.
Chosig,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
and Davis.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. We are now into our committee reports. Councilmember Kring, will you please provide a report from the Finance and Administration Committee?
I will. Thank you, Mayor. The Finance and Administration Committee met on March 2nd and considered a total of 5 items. The upgrades to access control and camera systems, along with the laptop and police department firewall replacements, and the meeting minutes were approved under our consent agenda. There's one additional item for review on the regular agenda tonight. 7A is the Mental Health Co-Responder Memorandum of Understanding. The Memorandum of Understanding between the cities of Westwood, Westwood Hills, Mission Woods, Roland Park, Fairway, Merriam, Mission, and Johnson County Mental Health was last revised several years ago. With the addition of a second co-responder in 2021, revisions to the MOU are necessary. This was a late addition to the budget process in 2021, and as a result, only Mission and Merriam had adequate time to budget for the second co-responder. Merriam has also received a grant that will fund the majority of the second co-responder for 2022. The revisions have been written broadly to allow for flexibility in the event additional grant funds are received in the future, as well as if other cities cannot find or cannot fund the second co-responder moving forward. Mission has budgeted $80,000 from the Special Alcohol Fund to cover the costs associated with the Mental Health Co-Responder Program, and the city attorney has reviewed the Memorandum of Understanding in its entirety. Therefore, Mayor, I move the City Council authorize an updated Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between Johnson County Mental Health and 7 cities for mental health co-responder services.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Thank you, Chief, for your work on this. All right, Audrey, please call the roll.
Inman,
Aye.
Boltinghouse,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Thomas, Joseph.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into Councilmember Boltinghouse's report. Councilmember Boltinghouse, will you please provide a report from the Community Development Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Community Development Committee also met on March 2nd and considered 9 items. The meeting minutes, along with the final plat of Rock Creek Pump Station construction inspection services for the 2022 street preservation project, the streetlight maintenance contract, the super pool pass agreement and letter of understanding, and the amendment to the solid waste collection contract with WCA were all considered under the consent agenda. There are 3 additional items for review tonight. Item 7B is the 2022 street preservation contract award. In 2020, City Council authorized a task order with Olson for engineering services for the proposed 2022 residential street preservation project. The streets included for 2022 were selected from the updated draft 10-year program for maintenance and rehabilitation of local residential streets. 6 streets were designed in 2021. 3 of the streets designed were bid for 2022 construction, and the remainder will be constructed in 2023. This will allow time for utilities to update existing infrastructure and for the city to apply stormwater funds to replace storm sewer pipe in poor condition for the remaining 2023 streets. The scope of work for the streets to be constructed in 2022 includes full depth pavement reconstruction, curb and gutter removal and replacement, and stormwater improvements or repairs. Miles Excavating Inc. submitted the lowest and most responsive bid at $1,580,093.21. Staff is currently evaluating additional streets to be designed in 2022 for 2023 construction. Any funds not spent in the current year will roll over to a future year and will be dedicated to this residential street program. Construction is anticipated to begin in May, June 2021. I think that should say 2022, and is estimated to be completed in 150 working days. Mayor, I move the City Council approve a contract with Miles Excavating Inc. for construction of the 2022 residential street preservation project in an amount not to exceed $1,580,093.21.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any council discussion on this item? Seeing none, Audrey, please call roll.
Inman,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Boltinghouse,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
and Thomas. Motion carried.
Item 7C is the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission Tree Plan. In accordance with the Mission Municipal Code, the Parks, Recreation, and Tree PRT Commission reviewed the city's tree plan for updates and recommendations. This maintenance is also mandatory in order to keep the Tree City USA designation. The PRT assessed chapters 230 on February 2022, and the only modifications recommended were date, punctuation, and spacing revisions, adding clarity to responsible city personnel, and adding the word resilience, since tree hardiness is an important characteristic in tree longevity within the region. Furthermore, the Kansas Forest Service, KFS, created a park and green space forestry recommendations document to aid in the assessment of park canopy diversity and future planning. KFS recommends continuing to diversify the tree species in parks, undertake an educational campaign to promote the benefits of trees, and to include the diameter and condition of trees when inventorying in the tree inventory software. KFS also suggested certain tree species to further diversify Mission's canopy. The Kansas Forest Service is the PRT's primary resource when determining if any species of tree should be added or removed from the list of prohibited trees in section 240.080 of the Mission Municipal Code. However, no additions or deletions were recommended for 2022. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the proposed revisions to the City of Mission's tree plan as set forth in Chapter 230 of the Mission Municipal Code.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, Audrey, please call the roll.
Davis,
Aye.
Boltinghouse,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Thomas, Tuzik.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Our last item is item 7D, Mission Market Site Improvements, bid for on-site water service. In the 2022 budget, the City Council approved $30,000 for improvements of the Mission Market site. These plans included the installation of electrical service, extension of water service to the site. The power upgrades expand the existing electrical service and will allow vendors to set up on the street to have easier access to power. The cost of this work was $4,159.33. Staff has ordered an LK brand bottle filler with a drinking fountain and pet station from Global Industrial. The fountain is freeze resistant with corrosion resistant base material with a powder coated exterior for $9,118.89. MMC contractors submitted the lowest and most responsive bid at $23,212 in order to provide the necessary work to allow for the usage of water at the site. The total cost of the improvements is $36,490.22, which exceeds the supplemental budget item of $30,000. Staff expects to be able to cover the gap in expenses with a combination of funds from the Mission Market line item and sponsorship revenue. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the project proposal from MMC contractors to run a new water line and install a concrete pad and bottle filler water fountain at the Mission Market site in an amount not to exceed $23,212.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Audrey, please call for the roll.
Tuzik,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas. Inman
Aye.
and Kring.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That conclude your report?
That concludes my report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We do not have any unfinished business or new business, and so we will move into comments from the city council. This is an opportunity for comments from our council members. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share tonight? Councilmember Kring.
Just wanted to let people know that there will not be a mobile distribution event at Trinity Lutheran Church tomorrow as previously scheduled. It's still currently on our electronic calendar. So due to the potential snow, they will have one next Thursday, which is the 17th, and the week after. So it will be back-to-back events.
Thank you. Any other updates? All right, seeing none, next we have our council committee liaison reports. These reports were a priority for council and allow the entire governing body to stay up to date with the various activities of our boards, commissions, and committees. First will be council members Kring and Thomas for Sustainability Commission.
Sure. Yeah. The Sustainability Commission met this past Monday. Brian Scott shared an update of the comprehensive plan with the group, which was really interesting for the group to get to see how sustainability fits in with all the comp plan pieces that we all are already or have been updated on. There was some discussion of the upcoming Climate Action Plan Task Force and plans around that. All their subcommittees are very hard at work. There's lots of subcommittees for the Sustainability Commission I didn't know about. And then one final piece, which Councilmember Davis inquired about in relation to development, was comparing NGBS and LEED certification. And one of the subcommittees went and did a little research and came back to report that they prefer LEED, as NGBS typically more correlates with residential, and there's less follow-up that seems to happen on the final stage of things. But the specific recommendation from the group will be in the Sustainability Commission minutes when those are made available.
Thank you.
Anything else, Debbie?
No, but in concert with the Sustainability Commission, several of us will be attending the Congress of Cities in Washington, DC next week. And the committee I sit on, the board, is Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources. So I will bring back anything that is highlighted at that meeting for Sustainability Commission to consider. And I will also share some of the highlights of our Sustainability Commission at that meeting.
Great, thank you. Next is Councilmember Loudon, because Councilmember Reinhardt is absent tonight. So for the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission.
Well, there was much talk about the tree commission plan, and also some organization for the bunny extravaganza that will be happening on April 16th. And we need lots of volunteers to help with that. Anyone like to join?
Great, thank you very much. Third is Councilmember Boltinghouse for the Mission Magazine Editorial Board.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The group has not met since I gave my last report. We actually postponed our meeting from this week, potentially to next week. So I'll be happy to update based on how that discussion goes. But my previous update stands, that expect a seasonal approach for the next issue, and looking forward to highlighting some of our more diverse businesses around the city.
Great, and everyone should be having issues hit their mailboxes. Is that correct? Yep. Perfect. Lastly, we have Councilmember Chosi with the Family Adoption Committee.
Mayor, the Family Adoption Committee has not met since we last gave a report.
Okay, great. Next is the mayor's report. No appointments tonight, but I did want to add, as Debbie previewed, there are some of us attending the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in Washington, DC. And so myself, Councilmember Kring, Councilmember Boltinghouse, and Councilmember Loudon, as well as staff member Emily Randall, will be there. There's in particular a focus this year on infrastructure. So we'll be looking forward to hearing opportunities for how we can best take advantage of federal programs related to infrastructure, and we'll bring back any recommendations and information that we have to the full council. And I did also want to note on the climate front, because I don't think we'll meet again before then, maybe we do, but the Climate Action KC Regional Climate Action Summit is on April 9th, and I know we have several from council and staff attending that as well. Next, Laura, do you have any
Mayor-
items you would like to share with council?
Mayor,
Oh, sorry.
it's all right. I just wanted to mention that we participated in the final session of the Racial Equity and Inclusion Committee today. And we will be looking at a focus on what we can do as a city in terms of implementing some of our learnings from that project. And there will be a continued effort among the cities that are participated to do something in the countywide initiatives toward racial inclusion.
Great. Yeah, Laura?
Yes, thank you. I actually have kind of a long list tonight, so I'll try to get through it quickly. First, our FCIP improvements that have had some significant impacts for operations here at the Powell Community Center. Some are ahead of schedule. We were able to open the track back up in some areas sooner than we had anticipated, which is great. The work has started in earnest. There's scaffolding all over the indoor pool area. I think Director Almany said they went as far as Iowa to secure scaffolding to keep that project on schedule. And I know that the communications that we've had with our heavy aquatics users and the opportunities that we've provided to allow them to access other facilities while ours is out of commission has been very well received. So Looking forward to all of that. On the LED streetlight front, our LED streetlight conversion is complete with the exception of the 8 poles that actually have to be replaced as a part of the project. We have no idea when the poles have been ordered. No idea when the poles might arrive, but we reached out last week to Evergy to switch over to the reduced rate. And so we hope to be able to see the impacts for that reduced billing and electric usage on this month's bill. I think you got an email from Emily earlier today, and you'll see on social media that we had, although the Shawnee Mission Post only reported us as part of Northeast Johnson County, we are the recipients of one of the hearts from the Parade of Hearts, 150 hearts that are located across the metro area. Our heart is entitled Grateful, and the artist is Daniel Bartle, and he's actually the same artist who did the mural at the Headless Hands Tattoo. So some other mission connections, which is fun. So the heart will be on display at our Mission Market site through June 1st. And so excited to be able to have that here in the community. We did touch on with the 7 days promotion. We'll be hosting the blood drive and the citywide cleanup event. Watch for more information on that. It will be Saturday, April 23rd from 9 to 11 a.m. We're in the process of organizing our existing Adopt a Park, Adopt a Street groups. We're reaching out to neighborhood and homes associations, scout troops, school groups, businesses, individuals. We'll meet across the street here at Beverly Park at 9 a.m. for kind of a kickoff, think breakfast like you might have at a 5K, some music, some announcements, a chance for people to check in. We've got t-shirts that will be available for that event, supplies, then everybody disperses to their assigned sort of cleanup locations. And our hope is to really get out and give our community a good spring cleaning as we come out of the throes of winter. And it's a great way to sort of cap off. It's the end of that 7 days, that, action and service to community and just interacting with others in a very positive fashion. So look forward to that. Mission Magazine should be hitting your mailboxes. Cover story is Sign Pro and Jim Sloss. And at his suggestion, he wanted to be photographed in our community center and feature some of the work that he's done for the city. So if that doesn't make you want to come walk around the track and work out at the community center, I don't know what does, but it's a great issue. Also featuring 3 of our Sushi Karma, Thai Orchid, and New Chinatown restaurants. And a feature on the 25th anniversary of the big ice storm. And I wish we were here tonight not talking about winter, but we are anticipating inclement weather. I think most of you probably saw, if you were planning to attend the Chamber's State of the Cities luncheon tomorrow, it has been postponed as a result of that. GFL, WCA, our trash provider, has suspended trash pickup service for tomorrow. They will be, that is posted on the website and on social media. They will be doing route collection on Friday and Saturday. So just help spread the word on that. We will be looking at, we've got sort of inclement weather plans. We're just going to have to keep an eye on things and see what happens with accumulation overnight with respect to opening of the community center. So as we make those decisions, we'll make sure to have those posted throughout the day. And then finally, a reminder that we get the next 2 weeks off from Wednesday night meetings, and then we will be back here on the 30th for a work session on streets and stormwater, a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts. And then the February interim financial reports were included in the packet. I would be happy to answer any questions. I will give a shout out to cost recovery for the community center, which has popped up to about 46%, which is the best we've seen it in the last couple of years. So it's moving in the right direction. I'm always happy to see that. And a lot of things going on. Biggest expenditures happening this month are still related to facility conservation improvements and things. So, and that is, I think, all I have this evening.
I did have one quick item to add related to Ken's comment about the racial equity in cities program. Some of you might have heard that the Johnson County Museum currently has a redlining exhibit. So we'll be circling back, but Laura and I had discussed possibly doing a city outing to that exhibit as well. I think it runs through the summer. All right, we do not have any need for an executive session tonight. So before we adjourn tonight, I wanted to share with the public that the video from this meeting will be available through a link on our website, missionks.org. There being no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.